The character of Spider-Man has been a very wild ride when it comes to movies, especially across the live-action format. I mean, if you really think about it, this character's had about, 10 movies? And he's still getting a whole nother trilogy starring Tom Holland. I mean, this character's had so many movies, cancellations, unfinished movies, and hell, even some of the worst comic movies ever made. And I mean, people still argue over if those movies are bad or not, or who's their favorite Spider-Man. I definitely have my own opinions. Some might be controversial to others, some might not. I guess you'll have to find out, because today we're talking about my top 3 Spider-Man movies and why I think they're the best movies and how they capture the character of Spider-Man. This video is sponsored by Rep Sports. Please do use code Wes at checkout. Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy Wes. How you chads doing today? Doing well. Today I wanted to do something a little different and talk about my top 3 favorite Spider-Man movies of all time. Of course, this is all my opinion. I want to put that out of the way because I want you guys to comment your opinion. I want it to be very kind. Let's not be toxic here. Look, everybody has opinions. I might think they're fucking terribly wrong, and that's okay. I might think the same way or they're dead on right. Okay, I'm very interested to see what people think about my opinions on these movies or my list, because it even shocked me when I was making this type of video or writing it out. My number 1 on this list is a lot of people's favorite movie. Considered the best comic book movie ever made and the best Spider-Man movie ever made. Hell, even the best superhero movie ever made. And you probably guessed what it is. I think we all know that it is Spider-Man 2. Come on, how can I not put this on the list and make it top? I grew up with this version of Spider-Man, okay? Yes, I love the Sam Raimi trilogy, and I am a Raimi fanboy. I will admit that 100%. I mean, come on, dude, I've had this my whole childhood. I was 2 years old when I watched the first Spider-Man movie, and I watched on VHS listening to the damn Nickelback song over and over again. I mean, when I was a kid, my 2 obsessions were Robin and fucking Spider-Man. Tobey Maguire is my favorite Spider-Man and is the Spider-Man. He is the definitive Spider-Man to me, and that's just my personal opinion. Just like how Andrew said, not take that away from me. I grew up with this version of the character, of this version of Spider-Man. Yes, just because I love Tobey the most doesn't mean I don't appreciate any of the other actors who've played the character. Hell, I even think that Andrew Garfield is the best actor to play him. I'm sorry, and that's just my personal opinion. You can get mad about it all you want. That's just me. I mean, come on, you can't tell me he had no good emotional scenes. He didn't carry a lot of the movie with Emma Stone. I mean, it's just a really shitty situation that Andrew Garfield was in, and also a really shitty movie. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little off topic here. Let's just get back to why I like Spider-Man 2 so much. Holy fuck. Okay, so when it comes to reviewing Spider-Man 2, it is so hard, or any of the Raimi movies, as a matter of fact, because everybody usually agrees that they're the number ones, and they always will be. I mean, they start the whole superhero genre to become serious again. They weren't taken as a lighthearted comedy or just really stupid comic book action. I mean, Spider-Man 2 is one of the first superhero movies I've ever seen be a actual film and focus on storytelling. For that means a lot of people have the same kind of opinions on the movies, so you've heard everybody's opinion. You already know my answers about a lot of things and why I love the movie. And usually the only reason any of the videos will ever get viral or do better than the other ones is because they have something super unpopular to talk about, or they say that they hate it. It's usually kind of how it goes with a lot of Spider-Man movies. So let me just talk about what I love and what I don't love about Spider-Man 2, because there's problems I do have with the movie, of course. Number 1 is just literally perfecting the character of Spider-Man. I still have not seen a incarnation of this character live action that has done so well. Notice how I said live action. We'll get into that part later. And he's just a kid in these movies. And yes, Tobey Maguire is definitely 40 years old in the movie, and it's very fucking apparent. But I mean, you gotta also think that the people who've played Spider-Man have always been a little bit older than the character that they've played. I mean, Andrew was 30. I mean, Tom Holland's 25 years old, which how the fuck is he 25? I mean, my guy literally looks like he's 14. This is the Peter Parker I always imagine when I think about Spider-Man. I mean, he's just this teen struggling day by day with multiple jobs, terrible love life issues, friendship issues, telling Aunt May that he's responsible for the death of Uncle Ben, working at another job that's forced him to slander his own name and what he does. And literally all this, all piled up, all crapping on this little fucking kid. This caused him to be at his breaking point. He gives up being Spider-Man. And that's really why I love this movie. A lot of people don't do that with a lot of superhero movies. When is the last time you watched a superhero movie where they just gave up? That's so uncommon. I mean, this is how you make a superhero movie relatable and how you can connect with the characters, because we all deep down really want to give up. I mean, he's just this kid who got just didn't ask for it. He was granted it without any really wish to be this. He's forced to do this because it's his responsibility. Same reason why I never really liked Andrew Garfield's first Spider-Man movie, because they make it weird with the genetics of his blood with his father, and he's chosen to be Spider-Man like it's his destiny. Which, yes, it is Peter Parker's destiny to always be Spider-Man, but in movies like Into the Spider-Verse have shown us that that is not the case at all, that Peter Parker is not the only Spider-Man. So many people are meant to fit the mask and wear the mask. That was my main issue. Anyone could wear the mask, and when you do that, that takes away the message of that completely. The thing that always made this movie way better than any other superhero movie was like they understood the alter ego. They didn't care about the mask, they cared about the person behind the mask. Because this is really just a Peter Parker movie in my opinion, not even a Spider-Man movie. So that's where you really find the ideology and the differences between Peter Parker and Spider-Man. Obviously they have similarities, they're the same fucking person, but when you find those really good golden moments in movies like this, especially for a comic book movie filled with fantastic performances like Alfred Molina's Doc Ock, and also just this incredible scene of him saying no to his uncle. He's crying his tears out. Man, I still tear up to this moment watching this as a damn 21-year-old kid. I used to cry like a baby when this scene came on. Not to mention, this movie still has some of the best action scenes in movie fucking history. Of course, this movie's not perfect. The flaws are still there, and probably my biggest flaw of the whole movie is probably Mary damn Jane. I kind of wish they Gwen Stacy to rap. I got super bored and annoyed with her character the whole time, honestly. And I know a lot of people don't like the burning house scene, but I fucking loved it. I think it was a great way of showing that like you don't have to wear a superhero costume to help and do your part. I think that it established that super well. Honestly, not a lot of people get that part credit because it showed that he didn't really need the costume. Peter and all of us are still a hero deep down inside, so we shouldn't just let a costume define that part of us. And yeah, maybe it was definitely a reshoot, probably for somebody complaining that there wasn't enough action in the movie or something. I don't know, I actually really enjoyed it, and I feel like I'm one of the only people who actually really enjoy that scene. And I'm sorry, man, I still haven't found anyone who can even touch writing and the emotional complicity of bringing it on screen like Sam Raimi does. Sam Raimi is the GOAT. He will always be the best person to make a Spider-Man movie. I mean, the dude is just a genius filmmaker in general, and I'm so excited to see what he does with Multiverse of Madness. But yes, I do love this movie. You can call me generic for loving that or put it on my top 3 list. I really don't care because it's still my favorite superhero movie of all time. It's fantastic, it's well written, it's funny, it's sad, it has some of the best moments ever in cinematic history. I mean, it won an Oscar for best visual effects. You can't tell me that a movie during this time ever looked this good, especially with the cinematography. Oh my gosh. I'm gonna stop rambling about this movie because you've heard everybody talk about this movie. Either way, this movie is basically a 10 out of 10 for me. I know some people are gonna complain about that because yeah, there's flaws, but sometimes the good shit just overweights the flaws at points that you just don't even recognize the flaws anymore. So that's my ranking. I'm sorry. Let's get into number 2, my rank. Definitely gonna be interesting to see what a lot of people think. I think a lot of people are gonna agree with me and like my opinion regardless. I was very shocked about my list, and I was hoping that it would be on this list. And that movie is Spider-Man No Way Home, where it's gonna contain lots and lots of spoilers. So if you just want to skip to the part where I talk about my 3rd movie, you can go right ahead. I don't really care. So, like many people, I've found many issues with Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Let me put this as clear as I can. Nothing with Tom Holland as Spider-Man. It's his version of Spider-Man. Tom Holland's an incredible actor, and it pisses me off when people say they don't like this version of Spider-Man because they usually do mean they don't like Tom Holland as Spider-Man. I'm like, you're so stupid. Like, I'm sorry, but like, Tom Holland was definitely meant to play Spider-Man. He does a fantastic job at doing it. You can get mad that he's replacing Tobey Andrew all you want, but I'm sorry, he still is, without doubt, one of the best people to play Spider-Man. I mean, like, the dude is a phenomenal actor. Now, look, I'm not sure about how the whole Uncharted movie is going to work out. I don't really seem excited for it, to be honest. But you cannot tell me, if you don't watch movies like Cherry, Devil All the Time, you see the darkness that is really good with his acting. He really acts his ass off in a lot of these movies. Not only that, it's just a little glimpse when he does those like angry scenes where we might see him as the symbiote Spider-Man, which is going to be so damn epic. I cannot wait to see that. And yes, he is way too overcasted, but I mean, again, he is a really good actor. Most people sleep on a lot of his other movies. And yes, I've complained about him being Ironborn Jr. so many times. I actually really have. And I do like his No Way Home trilogy. I mean, they're not perfect. They're no Sam Raimi tier of movies. Like, Far From Home is probably the weakest. Homecoming is really good, but No Way Home is the best, without doubt. And I was honestly wanting them to really fix a lot of the Iron Boy Jr. problems, because that was my main thing. Yes, of course, I would be excited to see Tobey and Andrew in the movie, but I really want them to fix this version of Spider-Man, because again, I love Tom Holland as Spider-Man. He could do a fantastic job. We know this. So I want him to be given the proper source material. To be honest, he's really seen more like Peter Parker in Civil War, and also now in this movie, because holy fuck, you cannot deny that this movie's fantastic. I know some people are going to say, Wesley, you're just driven by the nostalgia. No, I'm not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't. Yeah, it's cool to see everybody back and the villains and stuff like that, but when it comes to superhero movies, I always want them to get the core message of what it's like to be the superhero and the alter ego. Spider-Man's a huge one, and they knocked it out of the park with this one. The man goes through so much, and Tom Holland acts his fucking ass off. He does such a good job in this movie, and not even to mention Willem Dafoe is insanely good in this movie. Like, everybody else is good, but Willem Dafoe steals the show for me 100%. He's definitely, without doubt, now the best MCU villain we've ever had. I mean, how in the fuck do you reprise a role that you played 20 years ago and top it, and then now you're gonna make it harder for anyone to be Green Goblin? I mean, fucking rip Dane DeHaan, my man. Like, Jesus, he knocked this shit out the park. And he was creepy and terrifying, and this is what I was really wanting for Spider-Man and Tom Holland's version of Spider-Man, is just for him to lose everything and to be beaten the shit out of, and it happens, man. And that's where my camera decided to die on me. It's okay, though. Why don't we just carry along, huh? What I was saying, I knew that this movie was a huge improvement, and I was gonna like this one way more than I thought it was when they made me fucking cry for Aunt May. When she died, I legit actually gave a fuck, and that is so rare. I really didn't care about this Aunt May. Like, no shade to Marissa Tomei. She's a fantastic actress, and she does a good job playing Aunt May. Dude, she did so good. She actually acted like the Aunt May that I was wanting her to act like, and that was so nice to see. Man, I bawled when she died in this movie, and they did such a good job. I actually really liked that they decided to give her the "with great power comes with great responsibility" line. At first I was a little like, but like, honestly, I feel like she really did deserve to tell this to Peter in this movie. She did such a good job at convincing that emotion. And again, just like Tom Holland, he really acted out that scene so well. Like, every time I've watched this movie like about 5 times now. I cry every single time she dies. Oh, also a little side note, forgot to mention this. I love how, like, when they did that bridge scene with Spider-Man and Doc Ock, there was one part where he said whole family in a car, and it kind of felt like a reference towards the first Amazing Spider-Man with that bridge scene. I really liked that. It felt really nice. I love is like a lot of this movie didn't feel forced with nostalgia. Obviously, when Tobey and Andrew showed up, and dude, I was freaking the fuck out, especially when Daredevil was there as well. Oh my god, dude, I think I hurt my friend's like hand or something when we were watching it, Cody's. It was really funny. I was so crazily in shock. What I loved is when they were there, like when Tobey and Andrew were there, it didn't feel like a paycheck type of performance. You get what I'm saying? You know how sometimes when you watch a movie and like it's a famous series or something, they ask for a person to come back, you could definitely tell they only did it for the paycheck. That's not at all how I felt when I was watching this movie, especially with Andrew Garfield. Andrew really made me miss and remembered how much I really loved his Spider-Man, honestly. Yes, he is my opinion, still the worst Spider-Man when it comes to movies, and I always liked him as an actor. He's a very talented actor. I hate The Amazing Spider-Man 2. I mean, I still watch and still get some enjoyment out of it, but in terms of movies, I just do not like that movie at all. I make fun of it almost all the time. I even think Spider-Man 3 is way better. Sorry. It didn't, well, it's like they didn't take over. Andrew just really killed him, man. I heard that he improvised that line where he tells him I love him, and I love that. Like, Andrew just reminds me so much of his Peter Parker in real life, how like weird and like kind of like jittery he is. He's so great. He's like a golden retriever. And of course my man Tobey was looking beautiful. He was gorgeous. I love him. I love that man so much. It's so great. He kept his wholesomeness. It felt like they let him put his own humor into his version of Spider-Man, which is like, you know, the daddy of all Spider-Mans, basically. So sadly, no Bully Maguire in this movie, obviously. How great would that have been? He has just that father figure type of vibe over the other Spider-Mans. It was just so great. Obviously, them swinging together, my clients were going crazy, dude. They were yelling and screaming. It was wild. And again, I was just so happy to see Charlie Cox's Daredevil back. I love that show so much. That show is ridiculously never talked about enough, and it's so good. And I really don't want them to get another actor to play Daredevil ever. But probably one of my favorite scenes, and I haven't really seen a Spider-Man get to this level of darkness. We almost did with the Amazing Spider-Man 2, but of course, it's a repetitive statement when it comes to Spider-Man 2, the Amazing Spider-Man 2 release. They cut it out. And it's the scene where Tom Holland shows his darkest time as Spider-Man. Dude, it gave me chills. Like, I literally have like chills right now thinking about it. I just loved how well it was done. You really feel the emotion of him and just the taunting of Willem Dafoe still, man. And like, he was beating the fuck out of this man. Like, I wasn't expecting him to do that at all in this movie. I liked it because like, it gave him a purpose to fight. You really want to side with him when he does the vengeful shit, of course, because you're like, yeah, I mean, in a way he deserves it. He hurt your aunt, you know, basically your mother. But I just love that Tobey stops him and there's no dialogue. There's so many movies that rarely do this, and usually they don't even get it right, but it's such a nice like justification. It just reminds me of all the OG Spider-Man movies where Aunt May was telling him, Spider-Man don't kill, we don't deserve to decide who lives and dies. Like, it's just it brought back so many memories for me when it did that. Just oh, it was so good, man. But I'm very excited to see how Tom Holland's Spider-Man is gonna be with the symbiote now, because I guess they slightly teased it. Yeah, I just loved how that whole scene was directed and everything, and I wish we did get that one scene from Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man movie where it was like that. And then just the chef's kiss when he had to make the ultimate sacrifice of people forgetting who Peter Parker was, not Spider-Man but Peter Parker. That was so well done. I thought this was gonna happen, but I just feel like Marvel wouldn't do that with Spider-Man. Like, I don't know, like, I felt like this version would not let this version of Peter do that, but no, they did, and I was so happy with it. The goodbyes were strong, the emotions were very much there, and it's been so lacking in this trilogy that it's so heartwarming and fantastic to finally see it come to fruition in this movie. And it sucks because this is again the Peter we know and love from the OG comics to the movies. This is a Peter who struggles daily, and it's what happens when you want to be a hero. You have to make the sacrifices you really don't want to make. You want to be able to love the people that you love, but when you do this, you put them in danger. So well done. Like, I really felt like everybody across the board, even Ned, which I like Ned, but I've always had a little bit of problems with him. Let's be honest here. As much as people do not like James Franco anymore, he's still the best Spider-Man friend and all that. I still hate the Flash from this universe, because let's be real here, Andrew's Flash was the best. Okay, sorry to say it. And obviously that gorgeous ass suit in the end was just so great. Seeing him finally live on his own was so great. I loved seeing that, man. This movie just really made me happy, man. I'm definitely going to watch it again. This movie hit so many high notes, especially for what type of movie that this was trying to be. It was a great way of wrapping up this version of Spider-Man, but also continuing this version of Spider-Man while also being a spiderverse movie, which you can ask any comic book fan that was in the 2000s, we would never think that this would even happen remotely. And that's why it's such a huge deal. A lot of people, because they live in this era where superheroes cross over all the time, you don't understand how remotely impossible this idea was years ago. It was simply not going to happen. And for them to actually do it great, so many people are still trying to complain about this movie because there's too much green screen. Yeah, motherfucker, COVID happened during this shit. Give it some slack. Like, I hate people who are still trying to, you know, on Tom Holland's, like, bad side because it's a Tom Holland movie that's really good now, and you cannot live to terms with that. It's a great movie. I loved it. Honestly, it is a straight up 10 out of 10 for me. That's how I feel about it. If you really are trying to say that this is not one of the best Spider-Man movies ever made, how are you a Spider-Man fan? Like, I don't understand that. But I digress. That's my rating of this movie. I know a lot of y'all gonna agree with me, hopefully. So yeah, let me know what you think about Spider-Man No Way Home as well. Now for the third movie, I kind of teased early on in this video. This just really depicted the character of Spider-Man for me. I really only knew about Peter Parker as Spider-Man. And if you're a Spider-Man fan, or just a fan of animation in general, you will know that Into the Spider-Verse has to be on this list. Like, come on, there's no way it couldn't be. It is the best animated movie I ever watched in my life. And I'm not a huge animation buff. I love good animation. I can tell when animation is good. Man, they just knocked out of the park with how they nailed the textures of pages from comic books, the style, like, come on, like, it's the reason why it won an Oscar, and it deserves to win an Oscar. It really outdid itself. I just can't believe a superhero movie that's animated did that. And like, honestly, I wasn't excited for this movie at all at first. I was more excited for the Tom Holland movies coming out, and I guess I was like, what is this, an anime movie? I couldn't care less. And I never really was into Miles Morales. Like, I knew he existed because I remember one comic book cover, he saves Obama or something like that. Shout out to Obama, baby. But so I never really knew much about that. Peter Parker, Spider-Man, and Scarlet Spider. I always forget what his real name is. It's like Ben Reilly. So I don't remember. So when I watched this movie, I really didn't have any anticipation. I was just awe because this really did capture that feeling of you can put on the mask and be Spider-Man. Why that message is so fucking important for this character. Because Miles, it just shows that you can be anything you want to be, no matter what your race is, gender is, what your beliefs are. It's insane, and I love that movie did that so perfectly without being forced. It was so naturally built, especially for being such a colorful movie, you know, like so explosive with the colors and the sound effects. I just don't know how they did it. And I've watched this movie like 8 times, by the way, and they were really the first people to throw the whole multiverse element to modern audiences, and it made it work. You gotta give the movie props for just doing that, and not to mention how beautiful that small little heartbreaking cameo from Stan Lee was. Man, I cried so hard when that part played, because I love Stan Lee with a passion, man. And it's so sad that you can't see what happens with everything going on with like Endgame and No Way Home. It's so sad because he would have fucking loved what would be happening right now. And also, this movie just balances the tone of being family-friendly comedy, feel good, to being very dark and serious at the same time. A lot of times people struggle to balance those emotions and tones very hard in movies because it's so 180 to each other, but it did it so well. The twist of his uncle being the Prowler, and like the relationship between him and his father, so well done. And like when he mask his own costume and uses his own powers, you really feel it. The whole emotion, especially with how dope the soundtrack was and how cool that whole sequence was when he's getting the powers. It was so cool. I loved it so much. And they had the courage to kill a fucking Peter Parker off in a movie. That's ballsy as fuck. And so many great references and nods towards different Spider-Mans and characters in the comic book. I mean, they even did the fucking Born Me, dude. It's cool. Like, I like little shit like that makes me geek out. And I'm so excited for Across the Spider-Verse, or the multi, I can't remember what it was called, but I want to see future Spider-Man. I always forget what it's called. I'm so stoked because I heard a lot of crazy things. I even heard Tom Holland might be in this movie. Imagine they get their version of Spider-Verse in there. Honestly, dude, as Spider-Man fans, we've all been eating, no matter if you didn't like the content. Literally, we had Into the Spider-Verse, Far From Home, Avengers Endgame and Infinity War, and then the Spider-Man video game, Miles Morales' video game, No Way Home. Now we're getting Spider-Man 2 coming out. We got the second Spider-Verse coming out. Like, dude, why is Spider-Man succeeding so well and these solo spin-off movies are being fucking terrible? Please, for the love of God, let Morbius be good. Even though it's already been delayed again, please let it be good, because I really want to see that movie do very well. I don't know why. I have faith in Morbius, so I'll have a review for that one. I don't know why. I just feel like I really want to have a review for that one, because fucking Let There Be Carnage was garbage. Hated that movie. Overall, I enjoy every single Spider-Man. Even the bad movies, I fucking love them. I find enjoyment in them somehow, especially with the third one, and like second one, I still enjoy a lot of moments from there. And I'm just shocked they haven't really butchered this character. Like, there's been complaints about Tom Holland's, but they never really butchered it. It was just a way of getting to that point of the character for a whole nother continuation of the series, which I think that's maybe what we needed and didn't realize. Fully apologize and own up to say I was wrong about this Spider-Man. I'm just so excited to see what comes next with the video game, the next Spider-Verse movie, and of course Tom Holland's new trilogy that we all know he is going to get. Hopefully we can get The Amazing Spider-Man 3 and Spider-Man 4. I will literally cry. Like, I will cry like a little kid because I've wanted that for so long for both of them. Thank you guys for watching. This is an excuse to talk about Spider-Man somehow because I love the character as a lot more than I think I do, honestly. I've always been a DC fan, but I love Spider-Man so much. I think everyone does. What little boy never wanted to be Spider-Man, right? Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Please do use code WES at checkout to help fund this channel. It helps out a lot more than you think. Subscribe, please. I put a lot of work into the videos I'm coming out with, and I hope you enjoy it. The next one is going to be the most surrealist video I ever made, and I'm very scared about it. I'm also very excited. Remember, do the things that you were scared to do, because with great power comes with great responsibility.